This video did not find you by accident. It arrived because something inside you has been whispering, a secret you've tried to silence. You feel different, too sensitive, too deep. You carry a solitude that no one else seems to understand. But what if this solitude isn't a curse? What if it's proof that you are one of the invisible ones? Souls tuned to a frequency beyond ordinary sight. Quantum physics calls it the observer effect. Mystics call it awakening. I call it destiny. Stay, because what you're about to discover will shatter the way you see yourself forever. And once you see it, you cannot unsee. Have you ever felt the quiet ache of not belonging? Not because you are broken, but because you sense too much. See too deeply and feel truths others ignore, that strange silence inside you. The solitude you carry like a hidden twin has never been your enemy. It has always been your invitation, an initiation into something greater. This is the call of the invisible ones. Imagine the first time you realized you couldn't play along with surface conversations. People laughed, exchanged small talk, and yet you felt the heaviness beneath their words, the sorrow hiding behind their smiles, the fear pulsing behind their anger. You thought something was wrong with you. You thought your solitude was isolation, a prison you couldn't escape. But solitude was never punishing you. It was preparing you. It was shaping your perception into a rare lens, one tuned to the frequencies most people cannot detect. The invisible ones are not misfits. They are pioneers. Souls who awaken earlier than the collective rhythm, who feel the currents of reality before the world notices the tide. They walk through the noise of life but hear the silence beneath it. They carry solitude not as a wound, but as a compass. Their solitude is not emptiness, it is an echo chamber of the infinite. And if you are listening now, there is a reason. You are one of them. The invisible ones are gathering. Across space, across time, there is a web, a network of quantum souls awakening together. You are part of that field, even if you have never met them in person. Every moment of stillness you have endured, every tear you shed in silence, every time you wondered why you felt too much, all of it has been evidence. Evidence that you are wired differently, that you are not a mistake, that you are evolution in progress. The result of awakening to this truth is simple, yet profound. Loneliness dissolves into belonging. Not belonging in the way the world defines it, fitting into a group, blending into the crowd, but belonging to something timeless, invisible, sacred. You realize solitude was never proof of your separation. It was proof of your connection to the field of consciousness itself. The infinite has always been breathing through you. The lesson is clear: solitude is not a flaw, it is your first teacher. It teaches you to anchor into your own frequency before you resonate with the world. It teaches you that you are not here to dim yourself just to belong, but to shine quietly and attract those tuned to the same hidden wavelength. It teaches you to embrace your difference as destiny. And now the question arrives, one you cannot ignore. If you are one of the invisible ones, then who exactly are you? What role were you born to play in this quantum awakening? What if loneliness is not evidence of failure, but proof of evolution? What if the very reason you have never fully felt at home in this world is because you were never meant to? This is the paradox of the invisible ones. You are both here and not here, walking in the ordinary while carrying the extraordinary within. The invisible ones are not a club you join, not a title you claim, not a label you wear. They are a frequency, a vibration of consciousness that recognizes itself not through the eyes, but through resonance. If you are one of them, you already know. You feel it when silence nourishes you more than conversation. You feel it when the weight of the world presses into your chest at night, not as depression, but as awareness. You feel it when you look into someone's eyes and see their entire story, even when they never speak a word. For centuries, mystics, poets, visionaries have whispered about this. They wrote about strangers in exile, prophets in deserts, seers in solitude. They were never alone. They were simply vibrating at a frequency the masses could not yet tune into. Today we call them invisible ones. Not invisible because they don't exist, but invisible because most people cannot perceive the spectrum they embody. They live between worlds, the known and the unknown, the seen and the unseen. The result of awakening to this identity is powerful. The shame dissolves. The guilt of being too sensitive evaporates. The constant question, "What's wrong with me?" transforms into the recognition. There is nothing wrong with me at all. You stop apologizing for your depth, your silence, your refusal to play roles that never fit. You realize that solitude was not exile but initiation, a rite of passage into a consciousness that is evolutionary, not pathological. The lesson is this: invisible ones are the bridges. They are the translators between dimensions. They sense what is emerging long before it is visible. They carry visions of what humanity can become and embody it quietly, often painfully, until the rest of the world is ready to follow. And because of this, their solitude is never wasted time, it is sacred preparation. But there is a deeper mystery waiting here. Science itself, through quantum physics, is beginning to confirm what the invisible ones have always felt. Consciousness is not limited to the brain. Awareness collapses probabilities into lived reality. The observer effect proves that the act of perception shapes existence. The invisible ones are not just dreamers, they are observers of the highest order. Their awareness itself is a creative force. So the question becomes unavoidable. If you are an invisible one and your consciousness shapes reality itself, what does this mean for your solitude? What hidden role is it playing in your awakening? Science has already proven what mystics have whispered for centuries: consciousness is not passive, it is generative. The universe does not exist as a fixed machine waiting for us to stumble through it. Reality is not a rigid wall, but a fluid ocean of possibilities waiting for an observer to choose, and here lies the mystery of the invisible ones. You do not merely witness reality, you sculpt it. Picture the famous double-slit experiment. Light and matter at their smallest scales behave not as fixed particles, but as waves of infinite probability. They exist everywhere at once until they are observed, and in the moment of observation the wave collapses. Infinite potential becomes a single lived outcome. This is not metaphor, this is physics, and it mirrors what your soul has always known. Awareness creates reality. The observer changes the observed. Now pause for a moment and breathe this in. Every thought you hold, every frequency of awareness you embody collapses the field of possibilities around you into the shape of your lived experience. For most people, this process is unconscious. They live through filters of fear, habit, conditioning, and distraction, collapsing their lives into predictable, shallow outcomes. But invisible ones, your awareness runs deeper. You are not satisfied with illusion. You feel the whole spectrum. You sense the invisible waves, the hidden data, the quantum signals beneath the surface. The result of realizing this truth is electrifying. Solitude no longer feels empty. It becomes the space where you actually witness how your consciousness interacts with the quantum field. Every quiet moment becomes a sacred laboratory where your awareness is not just a bystander, but a force shaping the fabric of existence. Your solitude is not the absence of life, it is the birthplace of creation itself. The lesson is profound. Being an invisible one means living as a conscious observer. You are not cursed to see too much. You are gifted with the ability to sense reality before it collapses. You can choose where to place your attention, and in doing so, you determine which version of the future emerges. Awareness is not passive, it is the steering wheel of your destiny. So ask yourself now, if observation is creation, then what is solitude teaching you to observe? What futures are waiting to collapse into form through your awareness? And most importantly, how do you begin to use this quantum power without drowning in its weight? Being alone isn't punishment, it's preparation. What the world calls isolation, the invisible ones know as initiation. Because solitude is not simply the absence of people, it is the presence of your authentic self, and in that presence training begins. Think of the times you withdrew from the noise. Perhaps friends wondered why you disappeared or why silence seemed more nourishing to you than endless chatter. They saw a retreat, but solitude was never retreat, it was rehearsal. Like an instrument tuning before the symphony, your inner world required quiet to calibrate. In silence, you learned to discern between your energy and the collective noise. In stillness, you began to hear the whisper of the quantum field guiding you, aligning you with truths unseen by ordinary eyes. The invisible ones are wired differently. They do not thrive on constant stimulation, they thrive on resonance. And resonance requires spaciousness. Every moment alone, every breath in silence is not wasted time, but sacred training ground. It is here that your sensitivity sharpens into precision. Here that your emotions transform into antennas picking up subtle signals from realms beyond the physical. Here that your intuition learns to speak a language you can finally understand. The result of embracing solitude as training is empowerment. Instead of fearing loneliness, you begin to see it as sacred practice. You realize that your depth is not a liability but a technology. You start noticing how time alone restores your energy, how it clarifies your vision, how it strengthens your capacity to hold the frequencies that overwhelm others. Solitude in truth is building your inner musculature, preparing you to anchor expanded awareness in a world addicted to distraction. The lesson is clear: solitude is your classroom, your temple, your laboratory. It is where the invisible ones cultivate coherence between their inner truth and outer expression. Without it, you risk becoming entangled in the chaos of the world, losing the clarity that is your gift. With it, you stand as a bridge, a channel, a transmitter of higher resonance. Solitude teaches you to stabilize in your own field before sharing it with others. And so the question arises, if solitude is training, then how do you carry this strength into the noise of the world? How do you walk into crowded rooms, busy streets, and chaotic systems without losing your resonance? How do you protect your sensitivity in a world that does not yet understand it? Ever wonder why small talk feels like suffocation? Why a room full of people leaves you emptier than when you entered? This is not weakness. It is not fragility. It is frequency mismatch. The invisible ones are tuned like finely crafted instruments capable of sensing vibrations far beyond ordinary perception. When you walk into a crowded room, you don't just hear voices, you absorb the unspoken fears, the buried grief, the frantic attempts at pretending everything is fine. Your system receives multiple dimensions at once: emotional tension, mental noise, spiritual dissonance. No wonder you leave exhausted. You are not failing at connection, you are processing too much of it. Think of it like tuning into a radio. Most people operate on a single station, caught in loops of survival chatter, distraction. But you are wired to pick up the entire spectrum: whispers of intuition, flashes of vision, the collective energy beneath the surface. When you try to engage in shallow conversation while your inner world is scanning cosmic frequencies, it feels like trying to compress infinity into a single word. That pressure is not your flaw, it is your gift asking for alignment. The result of recognizing this mismatch is liberation. You stop blaming yourself for feeling drained. You stop apologizing for needing silence after social gatherings. You realize that your exhaustion is not because you are broken, but because you are processing at quantum speed. And with this realization, you begin to choose differently. Instead of forcing yourself into endless noise, you begin seeking resonance. You begin to value fewer but deeper connections, conversations that awaken instead of deplete. You start noticing that when you speak from your authentic depth, the right people, the other invisible ones, appear as if drawn by magnetism. The lesson is this: you were never meant to connect with everyone. You were meant to connect with the aligned. Crowds will always feel draining if they do not match your frequency. But resonance restores. A single conversation with another invisible one can nourish you more than 100 surface-level interactions. And when you honor this truth, you no longer feel guilty for walking away from noise. You walk toward coherence. And now the question emerges: if you are not here to resonate with the many but to align with the few, then how do you shift from isolation into belonging? How do you step from draining disconnection into the sacred network waiting for you? You are not alone, you are entangled. This is the hidden truth your solitude has been trying to reveal. What looks like separation is actually connection in disguise. What feels like exile is initiation into a deeper belonging. And the bridge between the two is the quantum field itself. In physics, quantum entanglement describes a phenomenon that defies logic. Two particles once connected remain linked across infinite distance. Touch one and the other responds instantly, as if space and time no longer exist between them. Science struggles to explain it, but your soul has always known it. This is why even in your solitude you sometimes feel the presence of others' souls you've never met yet somehow recognize. This is why certain books, voices, or videos feel like lightning striking your heart. It is not coincidence. It is resonance. It is entanglement. The invisible ones are part of a vast, timeless network. You are a node in that web, a receiver and transmitter of consciousness. Every insight you embody, every frequency you stabilize ripples through the network. Your breakthroughs are not just personal, they are collective. When you heal, others feel lighter. When you expand, others find pathways they didn't know existed. When you anchor presence, others awaken simply by standing near your field. The result of realizing this is transformation. Solitude shifts from emptiness to sacred belonging. You no longer see yourself as disconnected from the world. Instead, you recognize you are woven into a tapestry of awakened souls, all rising together. The silence you carry is not a void, it is a channel. And through it you sense the heartbeat of a larger consciousness pulsing through you, reminding you that you are both individual and infinite. The lesson is profound. Belonging does not come from crowds, it comes from resonance. You do not need millions to validate you. You need the invisible recognition of those tuned to your frequency. And they exist scattered across continents and lifetimes, yet connected to you instantly through the field of awareness. This is why you were never meant to fit in, you were meant to connect beyond. So here is the question that must now echo in you. If you are already entangled with other invisible ones across time and space, then what is your role in this awakening? What responsibility comes with carrying this depth, this connection, this evolutionary gift? You are not broken, you are upgraded. This is the secret hidden inside every invisible one. What once felt like fragility is revealed as precision. What once felt like too much is discovered as exactly enough. Your sensitivity, your solitude, your endless depth, these were never flaws. They were the fingerprints of evolution. Imagine this: you walk between worlds, one foot in the ordinary, the other in the infinite. You feel the pull of daily life, the responsibilities, the distractions, the noise. And yet behind it all, you sense another current, a river of consciousness flowing silently through everything. This dual existence is not a mistake. It is your assignment. You are a bridge between dimensions, carrying truths from the unseen into the seen, embodying possibilities that others have not yet dared to imagine. The result of awakening to this role is liberation. No longer do you shrink yourself to fit into rooms too small for your soul. No longer do you apologize for needing silence or for speaking truths that unsettle. Instead, you begin to stand in coherence. You begin to live in a way where your inner reality matches your outer expression. And when you do, something miraculous happens. You become a signal. Without forcing, without preaching, without convincing, you transmit a frequency of authenticity that others can feel. You become living proof that depth and presence are not weaknesses but the foundations of a new humanity. The lesson is this: invisible ones are not here to hide. They are here to awaken, quietly, steadily, authentically. The role you carry is not only personal, it is planetary. Every time you choose presence over distraction, every time you honor solitude over noise, every time you speak truth instead of conformity, you expand the field of possibility for all of humanity. You are not just living for yourself, you are living for the evolution of consciousness itself. And so the call now turns to you. You are not listening to these words by accident. This message found you because you are part of the awakening. You are part of the invisible network of quantum souls rising together. The world needs your depth, your perspective, your frequency. The time of hiding is over. The time of coherence has begun. So here is your invitation. Step into your role. Honor your solitude. Embody your awareness, and let your presence ripple outward as a signal of what is possible. The awakening is not coming, it is here, and you are one of its pioneers. Now, before this journey ends, I want to hear from you. Do you recognize yourself as one of the invisible ones? What moments in your life revealed your difference, your depth, your calling? Share your story in the comments, because every word you write helps another invisible one recognize themselves. And if this message resonates, share it, subscribe to this channel, and become part of the web of awakening souls. Together, quietly, powerfully, we will expand the frequency of a new humanity.